Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and I'm back here in London for one of bespoke shoemaking's most exciting and important events, the World Championship of Shoemaking. This contest, now in its 5th year, pulls together some of the best and most talented shoemakers in the world as they showcase their incredible work in competition with one another for the coveted title of World Champion in Shoemaking. The concept of a World Championship in Shoemaking is not a particularly modern one. Indeed, it draws upon the competitions that were held during the World's Fair of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Bespoke shoemaking was, at that time, one of London's largest and most combative trades, with shoemakers constantly attempting to outdo one another in what was a very competitive industry. Each year, the World Championship of Shoemaking selects a different iconic dress shoe model for the shoemakers to make. The first year, in 2018, was a black cap-toe Oxford, followed by a dark brown full brogue Oxford or wingtip in 2019, a long wing brogue in 2022, and a black Balmoral boot in 2023. This year, we see these incredible shoemakers exercise the very pinnacle of their craft, making a light brown full strap loafer. This will be the contest's first casual model, and I'm excited to see how each shoemaker reinterprets this classic shoe to showcase their design and technical abilities. This is truly a groundbreaking contest, one that resurrects the famed World's Fair contest of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and continues to showcase the incredible examples of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition so beautifully exemplified by the bespoke shoemaking trade. So join me as we document the 5th annual World Championship of Shoemaking here in London.
Yes, so I am Philippe Atienza. Then I am honored to be part of the jury of the World Championship of Shoemaking this year. We will speak about the execution of the work, the design, and then the difficulties. What I am thinking about difficulties of the work is the way to produce the shoes with the traditional craftsman techniques, and then to find type of inspiration to use the traditional techniques in the side of the way to make the shoes. Execution is the precision of the craft, the quality of the finish, the details of the proportion. That type of things are for me the key to make a nice shoes. After that, the creativity or the design. We can be creative to make something. The people who make the shoes for this competition can be creative, but they have always to respect the proportion of the shoes, the balance of the shoes from the front to the back of the shoes. I am very attracted to the spirit of the craftsman. So I want to keep the spirit of the shoemaking craftsman for the next generation. And also that type of competition contribute to keep all the techniques intact, even if the competitors are creative.
Hello, I'm William Philibord. I'm honoured to be a judge at the 2024 Shoemaking Championships. As every year, the criteria for judging shoes are difficulty, execution and design. And when we're looking at the different entries, we keep these three criteria in mind. So design, we consider range, the beauty of lines flowing from the sole into the heel, the balance of the pattern and the overall draftsmanship of the shoe. We're looking at execution, how sharp, how clean the shoe lies, how the welt runs parallel to the edges of the last. And then difficulty, there are many things which are not seen ordinarily in a traditional bespoke shoe. For example, here we have some braided stitching, which can be done entirely by hand or with the aid of a machine, and then every stitch is then braided as the shoemaker is moving along the pattern. The tightness of the stitch along the welt here and how cleanly that's produced. We're also looking at this horseshoe shape, the way the inset toe plate is worked into the shoe and how cleanly that's finished. On this shoe as well, it's actually a hole cut shoe, so this will be a single piece of leather running all the way around, but within the criteria of this year's competition it should have a separate apron piece. So managing these different criteria is challenging. We also have the extremely thin heel lifts here. They're probably about 2 millimeters each, half or even a third of the thickness of a regular bespoke shoe. The tightness of the brass nailing here in the heel. And obviously this very interesting detail, how this shoe, which is entirely hand sewn, can be cut off in the waist, cleanly finished, and then continues again through the heel. So these are the kind of interesting details which we have to consider and compare between each entrance, and how do they weigh up one against the other. So it's quite challenging at times. As a judge, one of the things I enjoy is obviously the creative aspect of everything that's going into these shoes. And it's just wonderful to see how creative and inventive people are in trying to outdo one another in trying to create something that is going to stick out of the competition. Mind-boggling occasionally. I mean, to come up with the idea to do this, for example, you have to really think outside the box, because you're applying traditional techniques in entirely new ways. And of course the goal is to do this in something that produces a piece of work which looks clean, accomplished and professionally finished, which is very difficult if you're experimenting with something for the first time. I mean, a technique such as hand stitching can take somebody up to 5 years to master. So when you're applying a technique to something completely new and you've got a deadline of maybe 4 or 5 months to reach for the competition entries, that in itself is a testament of great skill. Shoemaking is an antiquated craft. I mean, it's been around for very long, and modern shoemaking as it is practiced today has been around for at least 400 years. That's the technique being set. And despite this, we're still finding new and innovative ways to create shoes. I mean, I find this particularly interesting and creative. The way the shoe goes under the waist, and the waist of the shoe being reduced to this very thin, narrow strip. This little beading inset. What makes this competition interesting is the fact that we're applying antiquated techniques to creating things which are very modern and forward-looking. And this year we've got another new proposal, creating something completely new. With this Norwegian, this is something that's normally applied to the apron, and here it's been applied to the waist. What's interesting is also as well the sole being cut out like this, so that you have a sort of island forepart and heel. every year we get new and continued creativity and new examples of way to apply these technique which hasn't changed in 400 years.
Okay, this is the 5th edition of the World Championships of Shoemaking, and it's Shoegazing, the Shoe Snob, and Kirby Allison who organize it. Kirby Allison is also funding sponsor of the prize money, together with Gary Tock of the book project Master Shoemakers, and we also have Parker Schenecker, who is the brother of the contest co-founder Edmund Schenecker, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but continues to support this contest. So the winner will receive £3,000, second place £2,000, and third place £1,000. They will get to travel around the world to be showcased for shoe lovers. They will receive a shoemaking awl made by Phil Norsworthy. That's for the top 3 guys. And of course, medals. The previous winners, in 2018, we had Patrick Frey from Germany. We had in 2019, Daniel Wegan from Sweden and living in the UK. 2022, after COVID, we had Wataru Shimamoto of Japan. And in 2023, we had Athanase Sefocle from France. This year, contestants were to make a loafer, saddle strap loafer in tan, leather sole, hand welted, handmade sole stitch, some other details. And the jury consists of both shoe experts and then a majority of bespoke shoemakers. So we had me, Jesper Ingvaldsson, Justin Fitzpatrick, Kirby Allison. Gary Tock couldn't make it this year, fortunately. But then shoemakers, we had Philippe Atienza from France. We had Masaru Ukuyama from Japan, nowadays living here in London. We had Jean-Michel Casalonga of Berluti. Sebastian Tarek, independent shoemaker based in London. And then Saskia Whitmer, based in Italy. William Laborde, independent shoemaker in London. And Daniel Wegan of Catella. So that's the jury. And last Friday afternoon, we all gathered and judged the shoes anonymously. Set points for three different criteria. What is judged is the degree of difficulty, which is maximum 10 points per jury member, where we look at how complicated the construction methods that have been used, how advanced they have been built, and so on, both in large and smaller details. We look at execution, which is a maximum of 10 points as well, and there it's how well the various parts of the shoe has been made and the finishing and all that. And then design aesthetics is 5 points, where we try to look at it, the objective beauty, so to speak, the pattern, proportions, balance, and so on. So that's what the jury has been looking at. And then I summarize the points. And we also give some deductions if the guidelines hasn't been followed completely. 5% deduction for small errors, 10 for large. I think there was a few 5% deductions, but none of the top 10. But this will all be stated on Shoegazing eventually when we summarize all the contest shoes. So here we will only introduce the top 10. So those are the ones that we have in front of us. And we will go from number 10 up to winner. In 10th position, we have Oh Sang-joon from South Korea. He has trained shoemaking in Japan for a decade, but now lives in Seoul. And the shoe has a lot of things happening on it. Very charismatic and interesting shoe. He made all himself, apart from the metal two-tap, which is made by Yoon Ji-hoo. So we will go through all the ones who have been part of. In some cases, it's all by one person. In some cases, there's lots of different persons. In 9th place, we have Zapatero Manila from the Philippines, who I think we have a representative of here today, maybe? There, yeah. No, it's fine, but congratulations. Awesome work. So this is a shoemaking workshop in the capital of the Philippines, established in 2013. They offer ready-to-wear, MTO, MTM, and bespoke. And they want to revitalize the making of handmade shoes in their home country. Really cool shoe with like a glass case, I believe. So you have to have a look at those amazing things. So in 8th place, we have Kodai Kawasaki from Japan. Based in Tokyo, he learned the basic in various shoemaking classes in the city, and then he spent time in Vienna, in Austria, to perfect his skills. And he ran the shoe brand Shoe Place By with relatively playful designs, and you can really see that on this like 4-wedge sole shoe really stands out in the crowd, and it's sort of saddle sandal thing. 7th place, we have Attila Shoes from Hungary, who we have here as an exhibitor today, which is really nice. So congratulations, Attila Shoes. It's the brand of Attila Kovacs from Hungary. He has a lot of other awesome exhibition pieces on his table over there, so you have to make sure to check that out. The shoe is has a lot of navy stingray inlets and no waist and a lot of really cool stuff. And the entire shoe was made by Attila Kovacs. So 6th place, we have Dito shoes from Japan, Tokyo. I'd say quite Japanese in style. You can really see that it's a Japanese shoe with nice like embroidery stuff, and yeah, very fine. Well balanced, well executed. So last making pattern and upper making is by Fumuya Masuguchi, and last in bottom making and finishing by Kai Ishii. So in 5th place, we have Andrei Kaveshnikov from Russia. Based in Moscow, one of the more famous Russian makers. Been entering several times, been in the top 10. Always have very creative, playful stuff going on. This year, among other things, the glass pearl beadings in the sole. And yeah, nicely executed. Has a skin stitch in the back seam and all that. Very cool. So the design, apron and back seam stitching and bottom making was made by Andrei Kaveshnikov. Upper pattern making by Nadesha Artemova. Closing by Galina Kretuka and shine by Alexei Vrublevsky. 4th place, just outside the podium position, we have Acme Shoemaker out of China. Also one of the exhibitors here, we have Leon Fan and the author representing the brand, who are exhibiting their ready-to-wear and made-to-order and bespoke shoes in the back. Amazing stuff. It's a large shoemaking workshop making high-end ready-to-wear up to bespoke in Beijing. And it's a decorative contrasting stitching all around. A lot of hand-braided parts, very finely done. Also on the inside of the shoe. It's scored very well on execution, especially. Okay, so now we are at the top 3. And here we will first introduce the 3rd place. And then I will present number 1 and number 2, not in that order, but just present the brands and the shoes. And then I will announce the winner for maximum tension. Okay, third place, we have Arya Badia from China. And the amazing thing here is that this is actually made by hobby shoemakers who have regular jobs and do this on the side. It's Xiang Daowan and Shun who have made their shoe after the regular jobs, and they love Italy. So it's inspired by the bridges of Florence, and there's an Italian stamp hidden in a compartment of the heel. But apart from that, it's relatively like classic. Definitely like a shoe that you could wear, and very nice execution and design. It received high on as well. So design, pattern, upper and bottom making by Dao, finishing by Shun, and details by Xiu. So now we have position number 2 and position 1. And I will present both these shoes and the companies. So we have Hiroshi Takagi, which it's, this is Hiroshi Takagi. It's Japanese, trained, both these guys are from Japan. So we will have a Japanese world champion once again, second time. He's trained by the shoemaker So Tsushuya, which some of you might remember. He did the clown shoe a few years back. Very charismatic entry of previous champs. But Hiroshi, he finished 7th in the World Championships back in 2022. This is his second entry. Very well executed. The sole stitch, you have to come up and look at it afterwards. It's really amazing. Playful design, hand braided, and a lot of really nice details of the shoe. And Hiroshi Takagi made all himself. And then we have Ken Hishinuma of Japan as well. He's based in Yokohama, south of Tokyo. He runs the shoe brand Kish the Work and offer MTO and bespoke. And he has one of Japan's largest YouTube channels. It's in Japanese, but with English translations. So it's actually, I can recommend it. It's a lot of interesting things on shoemaking. And his shoe has 2 of the biggest trends when it comes to the shoemaking contest. The horseshoe heel and also the non-existing waist, where he does sort of a pie crust stitch part that's together with upper. Very interesting solution. And as well, very nicely executed. He made all himself, apart from the polishing, which was made by Go Ishimi. So, the winner of the World Championships of Shoemaking 2024 is Ken Hishinuma from Japan. So Hiroshi Takagi finished 2nd. So they will get gold medals, shoemaking all, nice prize money, and tour the world. Unfortunately, I don't think any one of the top 3 is here, but I'm sure they're watching the live stream now, very late home in Tokyo, and we have some happy faces there. Okay, thank you everyone for being here and being part of making this a great day. Now you can come up and have a look at the shoes, talk to the various shoemakers that are here. We will be back next year for sure, next spring. So thank you everyone for being part of the London Supertrunk show. Cheers.
There we have it, the 2024 World Championship of Shoemaking. What an incredible demonstration of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. of the shoemaking and its craft at its finest. We of course have our first place winner, the world champion, Ken Hishinuma from Japan, with this absolutely incredible casual. And then Hiroshi Tagaki, again of Japan as well. Japan really, truly showcasing the incredible shoemaking that they have out of this country. I have here, of course, Dan Wegan of Catella Shoemaking, no stranger to this channel, and also one of the reigning world champions. And since we don't have either of these two shoemakers here to talk specifically about their shoes, I was hoping that as a bespoke shoemaker, as a prior winner of the World Championship of Shoemaking, you might just point out to us some of these characteristics that really set these two shoes apart.
Yeah, well, if we start with the runner-up, with Hiroshi, I think a lot of the judges were very impressed. Very clean, inventive upper, especially with this kind of strap. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's maybe bending the rules a little bit, but I think it was within the rule book, and we all quite enjoyed it. Very complicated, very clean. There's a lot of shoes in this competition that has a lot of ornamentation, and the more you add to the shoe, the more you start to see people struggle with executing it cleanly. Yeah. And I think they've really done a very good job of something where there's a lot of areas where you could have issues. You have the horseshoe heel or the shell heel, very smooth, good finishing, a little bit messy around the heel, but you know, this shoe is scoring probably very high with most judges on difficulty, and maybe coming just a little bit short in execution in a few areas. Yeah. But when there's this much going on, you know, it's a tough ask.
It's a hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, what I like about this shoe is, again, it's not overdone, right? No. We saw a lot of the shoes that, in an effort to, to express kind of the creativity of the shoemaker, you know, had a lot going on from an ornamentation standpoint.
Yeah, I think like most of us, I think when we go in the room to judge these shoes, you can almost just looking at the shelf and you see which ones you're drawn to and has like an aura of kind of cleanliness and elegance. Mm-hmm. And I think like the top 3, 4, 5 shoes kind of had that. And that's, I think, where, you know, you can almost instantly see what the top 5s are going to be. Yeah. But who's number 1, number 2 takes a little bit more digging a bit deeper and really looking close. Because sometimes, because I've been part of judging this competition a few years, you can tell that they get more and more complicated, and if you don't look close, you might miss something and, you know, score something too low or unfairly.
Yeah. Now, speaking of difficulty, you know, could you point out maybe, you know, a few of the elements that would score this shoe high? Like, for instance, the braiding that we have here across the apron. I would imagine that this is a technique that I didn't see on many other shoes, and given the resolution and size, would be quite difficult to do it properly.
Yeah, I think here, because you have the broguing, you have the braided seam, you have a skin stitch. There's a lot of things very close to each other, and I think once it's this crowded, it can start to look very messy if you're start to go a bit wavy. So it just looks very neat and tidy. It almost is hard to see the detail from far away, but when you get up close, you see that there's a lot of intricacy to the work, and just lovely execution. Yeah.
And what about the sole stitching? I mean, a very fine, I mean, what has to be 18 or 20 SPI?
Yeah, as a maker, you know, we still try to, there's a lot of highly decorated uppers, but, you know, this is a shoemaking competition, so we try to put a lot of emphasis in the making. And yeah, the sole stitching, edge finishing is really lovely. The shell heel with the upper kind of peeping through is, lovely. And I think it's one of the first shoe that really displays that, especially done well. Yeah. So no, really, really love it. And I think a lot of us shoemakers, when we see something, we also look at it. Is this something that could actually be worn by somebody? And I can totally see it. I think this is a great idea.
This shoe right here was not a far jump, in my opinion.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's one of those things you see, okay, maybe you won't use everything for a pair of shoes, but you know, you could implement and take inspiration from this and use it in something for a customer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think of the shoes that placed within the top 10, it was probably one of the most approachable. You know, to achieve that with this much complexity going on at one time, I think in and of itself is an accomplishment.
Having a lot of unique features and making it work instead of ruining the project is very difficult.
Well, I mean, hats off to Hiroshi of Japan for some absolutely superb shoemaking here. Now we've got, of course, the winner, Kin, also from Japan, with an absolutely beautiful shoe. But again, I mean, both of these at this level are almost so close. I mean, how would one even differentiate these two?
Yeah, I don't know the official scoring, but I would imagine that they are quite close. And I think it's a little bit give and take, probably between the judges, where one gets a little higher in execution. I think this one is quite clean. This one is maybe in some areas more challenging and unique, but still equally well executed. This was my personal favorite. Yeah, according to me, I placed this as my highest scorer. So I'm glad I got it right.
Yes. I don't think I got it right, but
I really like, I was probably one of the first to make a horseshoe heel in a competition, and it's become a bit of a staple. It's a standard in the vocabulary of prize work or
Have
competition.
you done it for a customer shoe yet?
I have some orders, so we'll see. Hopefully, it'll see the light of day and walk in the streets.
But walk us through the distinctive elements that would have made this a difficult shoe to make.
Sometimes when you see a shoe that's complicated, it can look fragile or like it would not be able to hold up to real use. But this it gives me a sense of confidence that this could be worn. And there's a few shoes this time that doesn't have a waist, so to speak, that are separated forepart and heel. And I think having this skin stitched like pie crust seam is quite attractive.
Yeah.
And as a maker, whenever I see stuff like that, I always wonder what the process looked like when they made it.
Okay.
And it's obviously made by somebody that understands shoemaking and how to use the characteristics of leather to your advantage and do interesting work. And still highly complicated. The braided stitch.
I mean, the braided stitch almost looks like a gold thread.
Yeah, it's probably a gold thread in there. It has that look to it. Very thin lifts, which I think a lot of us are drawn to. Good finishing on the inside, feels proper and sturdy.
Brass toe plate.
Brass toe
Another
plate.
one of your innovations.
I'm not sure about that, but I'm not going to take credit, but if you say so. And lovely edge finishing, fine sole stitch. And same here, my eye was drawn to this. I love the way it looked. It had the ridged toe. Yeah. I had a shoe with a ridged back, so not something new, but rarely seen. And
you see that carry through here, even in the shape of the sole.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, you talk about execution. Here is a very fine sole stitching, perfectly, flawlessly executed. And then to carry that shape through the toe is quite impressive.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of shoes in this event that was very ornate, but became less attractive almost.
Yeah.
And I think all of the top 3, top 4, they used ornamentation and made something attractive that it was not complex for the sake of being complicated, but to try to achieve beauty and excitement. So.
Well, you do make a good point in that, each of these shoes at the end of the day, seem wearable.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not a far jump from a World Championship shoe like with what we have here. It's something that a customer might order.
Yeah.
I mean, both are aesthetically classic in their proportion and design, beautiful, and really showcase this great judgment on the part of the shoemaker in choosing how to employ these different tools that they had available.
Yeah, and I think it's important at an event like this to make it feel accessible. And I think when a lot of the visitors at this event, I think I'd be curious to know what shoes they were drawn to. Yeah. And I think they would have quite a similar taste as the judges and the shoemakers, because the proportions are right. Everything looks familiar, even though there's new shapes here. Yeah. You recognize them as tasteful and classical at the same time. Yeah. So,
I mean, I was really impressed with the shoes this year and how, even what's now in the 6th year of the World Championship of Shoemaking, we continue to see kind of new and innovative applications of certain techniques to create shoes that I think hopefully, as has been done in the past, continue to push the boundaries and elevate the craft.
This year was the year of the waistless shoe, so we'll see what people do with that. Yeah. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, I like to see a waste, and it's an opportunity to show your skill.
Yeah.
And removing it can be a bit of a shame, even though my favorite was one of them.
Yeah.
It still has some treatment to that area that I found attractive.
Yeah, well, amazing. Thank you, Dan. There we have it, the 2024 World Championship of Shoemaking. The top 2 shoes, the first place, the second place, and really the entire lineup of the top 10. Just such incredible examples of craftsmanship. And this is an event I always look forward to. It's been really exciting to see how this has evolved over the years and how this continues to elevate the trade. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you're watching, let us know what you think in the comments section below. Make sure you visit kirbyallison.com. It's how we support the content that we film here on this channel. There you'll find the largest selection of luxury garment care and luxury shoe care accessories in the world, as well as other great clothing accessories for the well-dressed. Of course, I'm Kirby Allison, and I love to help the well-dressed acquire and care for their wardrobes while exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Thanks for watching. Daniel, thank you.
Pleasure.